I hear a lot of people speaking about Tisha B'Av and saying, you know, it's so hard to feel the Churban. It's so hard to feel tzarot. I think that's probably the saddest thing about Tisha B'Av, is that with all of our pain and all of our suffering, and all of the lives that are falling apart, and all of the wasted opportunities, that we don't even feel the tzar, and we need to have a whole day to sit there to feel the tzar. I want to talk a little bit about Churban, and I hope to make it a little bit real, so it won't be so hard for us to feel the tzar. Unbelievable thing that it's so hard to feel tzar. So I think I have a little bit of an idea of why it's so hard to feel the tzar. In the morning we say the brachot. We say brachos every morning. The first bracha, the truth is you may have a different order, I'm not sure. He'll tell me. The first bracha that I say in the morning, in the Birkot HaShachar, we say, Shenasan l'sechvi vina lahavchin ben yom uvein laila. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the rooster the ability to differentiate between night and day. That's the first bracha. And then we go through all the brachas of the day. We say, Shelo Yasani Goy. Then we get dressed. Malbish Arum, Hashem dresses us. Hashem Pocheach Ivrim, he opens our eyes. Some people even say these brachot, they don't say them in the morning. They say them in order of the day. When you get dressed, you say Malbish Arum. When you open your eyes, you say Pocheach Ivrim. When you step on the ground, you say Rokah Ha'aretz Al Hamayim. Hashem places the ground, the earth on the water that we can step. Hashem appears our footsteps. Mitzadei Gever. Hashem gives us koach, He gives us gevurah, strength, splendor. The brachot of the morning go through the Seder Hayom. Step by step. We get dressed, we open our eyes, we step on the ground, we go to work, we make some parnasa. And then what's the last bracha? What's the last bracha? Hamavir sheina me'enai. Hashem removes slumber from my eyes, usnuma me'afapai, and tiredness from my eyelids. Doesn't make any sense. We just went through the whole day. We got up in the morning, we got dressed, we went to work, we made money, we have a little kavod now, we have koach. And then what do? We go right back where we started from. Thank you, Hashem, for removing slumber from my eyes. That was the first bracha. The first bracha was Hashem teaches the rooster to know the difference between night and day. It's a pasha of the question, right? You never noticed this question. The order is totally wrong. So what's the answer to this question? The answer to this question is that the order is not wrong. It's not out of order. The first bracha is the sechvi, the rooster. Yes, the rooster wakes up and he knows the difference between night and dark. The rooster lives, the night it's dark, you can't do anything, and it's the laws of science. Right? The sun comes up, it's light, you don't sleep anymore. Night is for sleeping, day is for up. As soon as it's up, let's get to work. Let's do what we do. But that's a rooster. It's not talking about human beings. Roosters wake up when the light comes out. Human beings are very scared of the light. Human beings discover snooze buttons and covers that we pull over our heads. We make excuses and answers. We don't wake up with the light. We're the only beings in the world that we don't want to face the light. We don't want to face the day. The rooster wakes up in the light. The human being curls up tighter in a little fetal position with his cover over his head. And then Hashem says to us, here, I'm going to get you dressed. And Tzaddik, you're not a goy and you're not a neved. Here, put on some beautiful clothing. I'm going to prepare the ground for you. I'm going to prepare your footsteps. I'm going to give you a job, and I'm going to help you make parnasa, and I'm going to give you some beauty and some honor. Hashem leads us through the whole day of a lot of success. And at the end of the day, then Hashem turns to us, and He says, Tzaddik, are you ready now to open your eyes? The last bracha is to open your eyes. The goal of a human being is to get to the place at the end of his life that every other being in the world starts off. Every other being in the world is living in the light. And we fight it. And we make excuses and we complain and we have 100 reasons to give up and to not live. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, here, let me give you chizuk. Let me help you see how beautiful and how good you are, and the world is, and the opportunities are. And then Hashem says at the end, now can you open your eyes? The goal of a human being is to get Sof Yamav, in the end of his days, at the end, to get to where everything else lives. Hashem created a world, it's a magnificent symphony. Every single thing in the world plays its part in this, it's a part of the orchestra. The world is magnificent, it's beautiful, it's musical. And every single thing in the world is part of it. All the tefillot that talk about the world as this symphony, the whole tefillah of Kedusha, is all the malachim playing their parts, saying Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Those kadoshes are the sounds of all the parts of the world. The clouds and the sun and the moon and the animals and the bees carrying pollen, the flowers growing and this honey. And then there's rain and then there's storms and there's sunshine and there's earth and there's waves. Every part of the world, it all fits. It's one symphony. And everything enjoys it. Except us, and we're sitting there in our whole lives with our fingers in our ears and our eyes closed and our hands clenched. And Hashem is saying, please, open your eyes. I created a world for you. Come live. And we have to wonder what Churban is. We don't need the mashal of the Beit HaMikdash. Churban is that our binyan, we're not playing our music, we're not living our lives are in shambles. All that I was supposed to be is wasted. Your Beit HaMikdash is your life. And in your life, you're supposed to be bringing Tmidim u'Musafim, all the Karbonot, the Tmidim, the steady, everyday mitzvot. You live a life in your house, you go, you get up the Shachrit, you learn, you take out the garbage, you make breakfast, you pack snacks, you learn with your children. These are Tmidim. Every day, these are the Karbonos you bring on your Mizbeach in your Beis HaMikdash, your table in your house, and you Musafim, the special Karbonot for Yom Tovim. You have Chol HaMoed trips, and you have Pesach Starim, and you build a sukkah, and we have Chanukah and Purim. The Beis HaMikdash, Hashem designed the Beit HaMikdash so that we all could see what Kedusha is. But the purpose of the Beis HaMikdash was not for Hashem. Hashem doesn't need a place to live. Va'asuli Mikdash, you will make me a temple. V'shachanti b'socham, and I'm going to live in you. We're the real Mikdash. You're the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash there was a prop, a tool that everyone could look at it and understand how to live b'kedusha, how to make his life one that's kadosh and tahor. The whole Beis HaMikdash was so that Hashem will dwell in us. So we're the real Mikdash. And we live with Churban. We're sitting there clenched up and pushing snooze buttons and making excuses and taking shortcuts and looking for tricks. Nobody wants to get up in the morning and live the life Hashem did, to read their script. Why are we all in a churban? And we don't feel the tsar of this churban? The tsar of the churban is all the tsar. What happens when you close your eyes? When you don't go to work, you don't have parnasa. When you don't say Shema with your children at night and read them a story and learn with them, then you're not going to have nachat. All the problems in life come because we're not facing them, because we're sitting with our eyes closed. We're not a rooster, and we're not all the animals dancing in the world and the clouds floating in the sky. They say children, right? We all know children are scared of the dark. No one tells us that adults are so much more scared of the light than children are of the dark. And we need to wonder what churban is. Destruction? Yeah, because we all have our answers in our mind. All the pain in my life, it's because of who knows what. I'm a Gilgul. It's Gilgulim. 1,000 years ago, someone did something wrong. We're like Houdini. We know how to escape from every single inspiring thing. You know how hard it is for Hashem to give us tzarot? Hashem created the world for us to enjoy. He doesn't want us to suffer. But He allows us to experience the brokenness of our choices so that we'll wake up. And instead of waking up, we decide, it's not my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. It happened. I'm a carbon for Klal Yisrael. We have 100 excuses. But the biggest excuse is the worst one. I want to go through a little bit what Chazal tell us about Tisha B'Av. It's interesting. There are two different opinions in the Gemara of why the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. It's a machlokes in two Gemaras. Everybody knows one of them, right? Maybe people know both. The reason for the destruction is what? Sinat Chinam. That has to be explained also. What does that mean? But that's the Gemara. The Gemara tells us that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because of Sinat Chinam. It says the first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed for the Shalosh Chamurot, the three most severe averos. The first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because we worshipped idols, idolatry, adultery, and murder. The second Beis HaMikdash, the Gemara says, that we were all tzaddikim. If it was learning, Torah was taught everywhere, everyone was educated, nobody was worshipping idols. So why did it happen? So the Gemara says because of Sinat Chinam, and that teaches us that Sinat Chinam is equal to all the biggest averos combined. That's the Gemara. But then that Gemara is in Yuma. Yuma Daf Tes Amud Beis. So if you turn to Bava Metzia, in Bava Metzia, on Daf Pei Hey Amud Aleph, 85, what does it say? It says, Alma Avda Haaret, why did we lose the land? What was the reason for the Churban? And the Gemara says the reason for the Churban, Shlo Birchu B'Torah Tchila. They didn't make a bracha before they learned Torah. That's the reason. They learned Torah, and they kept their mitzvot. They did everything. Shelo birchu b'Torah tchila. So there's two questions here. First of all, that both of them need to be explained. What is it so bad they didn't make a bracha on Torah? And another thing is you also have to explain what is sinat chinam. What does it mean to hate somebody for no reason? Is there such a thing? I know everybody I ever hated had a good reason. You hate for a reason. You don't hate for no reason. But we take it for granted. It's one of these words we use of sinat chinam. There's such a thing as sinah with a reason. There's even times in the Torah where you're required to hate. There's a mitzvah of the Torah where you should hate, certain cases. And then there are cases where you're allowed to hate. And the Torah even says, lo sisna, the rule against hate doesn't say don't hate. It says, lo sisna sachicha bilvavecha. Don't hate them in your heart. Communicate what you're upset. Doesn't say don't hate. But this is a new thing, it sounds like. This is not the regular. This is something called sinat chinam. Hatred for nothing. Free hatred. So we need to explain free hatred, and we need to explain making a bracha on Torah first, and then we need to explain the third thing. It's not what's the reason? Which one is it? Are they the same thing? Is there a way that we can understand making a bracha for Torah the same thing as hatred? What's the answer to our three questions? What's one answer? What's the other answer? How do they fit? I'll make it a little more complicated. There's actually a third reason. I don't know why the Gemara has to ask the reason. We know the real reason for the Churban. It's actually discussed also in the Gemara in Tanit. Everyone knows that there were 5 things that happened on Tisha B'Av. Both Beis HaMikdash, Batei Mikdashot were destroyed. We know that. But what else happened on Tisha B'Av? World War I, the Spanish Inquisition. But the Gemara, in the times of the Gemara, already discusses 5 reasons, well before all that. The Bar Kokhba's revolt was put down, was ended on Tisha B'Av, and Beitar, they killed all the Haruge Beitar. They killed the whole city. And that's what we say a bracha in the benching in Birkat HaMazon about the Haruge Beitar, Hatov Meitiv, because they didn't let them bury them for years. And then when they finally got permission, the bodies were all perfect. They hadn't disintegrated. It's an unbelievable nace. And we say a bracha in benching for that. Turnus Rufus, many years later, plowed over Yerushalayim, destroyed it totally. Was also on Tisha B'Av. 50 years after the Churban, 60 years after the Churban, he plowed Yerushalayim. Plowed the Beis HaMikdash. Totally plowed over, not a remnant. But the first thing that happens on Tisha B'Av, it's an unbelievable thing. Anyone know what it is? The first thing? The Meraglim. Well before the Beis HaMikdash. We hadn't even gone to Israel yet. Already Tisha B'Av was the worst day. The Jews had left Mitzrayim. We received the Torah. We were about to go to Eretz Yisrael. We send the spies into Eretz Yisrael. And the spies come back And the spies, they say, whatever, the Gemara says, they said Lashon Hara on the land. And everybody started crying. And that was the night, Leil Tisha B'Av. That was the night of Tisha B'Av. And the Gemara in Tanis says that Hashem said, because you cried that night for nothing, I gave you this beautiful land. And you cried that you didn't want to go into this land. How terrible to go into this land. Crocodile tears. I'll give you something to cry about. And the Gemara says, because you made a bechia shel chinam, tears of nothingness, I am going to give you tears lidorot. Bechisem bechiot shel chinam. False tears. Now, this night will be a night of crying forever. So the Gemara is telling us, what is the reason for Tisha B'Av? The reason for Tisha B'Av is the Meraglim. Is because that night we didn't want to go into Israel. So we don't go in. We always lose it. Everything happens on Tisha B'Av. It's clear. That's not the Gemara. It's based on the Torah. The Torah tells us the story. It happens on Tisha B'Av. So why do we need two answers of Sinat Chinam and Lo Birchu B'Torah Tchila? Why do you need those reasons? So now we have 4 questions. I'm going to stop with the questions. I want to read with you the story of the Meraglim like you never heard it before. And when we understand what really happened, we'll understand, I hope, everything. We'll understand all the questions I asked. Like, they didn't make brachas on the Torah. What does that mean? What is sinat chinam? What is crying for chinam? How do all these answers mean the same thing? I think it's the most misunderstood story in the entire Torah. The story of the Meraglim. Everyone thinks, what's the story? They went into the land, they saw the land, and they came back and they said it's a terrible land. That's what we learned. They said Lashon Hara on the land. They spoke bad about the land. And Hashem said, because you spoke bad, you're not going in. That's the story we learned, right? Everyone knows that story. Let's look at the words. What actually happened? Moshe Rabbeinu sends them into the land. The Meraglim go in. And they come back and they say like this. Well, Moshe asked them, he said, find out. Find out what the land is. Let's go see the land. Mahi, what is it? Let's go see the people who live there. Hechazaku harapeh. Are they strong? Are they weak? Hama'atu amrav. Are they weak? Are they strong? Umahaaretz. And what is the land? Is it good? Right? Hatovahi emra. Is it a good land or a bad land? Umahaarim. And what are all the cities? Are they fortified cities or open cities? Is the fat? Umahaaretz hashmeina hi emraza. Is it a productive land? Is it a fallow land? Hayesh bem eitzimai, are there trees? Are there no trees? V'schazaktem, and go lukachtem piyadam, bring me back something. And that's what he told them to do. Vayalu, they went. Vayasur, they did go through the land. From top to bottom. They saw the whole country. And here's what they say when they come back. Vayashuvu mitara oretz, they return from touring the land. Vayusaprulo, and they tell him, Vayoimru. Banu ela oretz. We came to the land that you told us to go to. Asher shlachtanu. We came to the land you sent us to. V'gam zavas chalav udvash. And it is flowing with milk and honey. V'zeh pirya. And look at the fruit. It is everything you told us it was. Efes kiyazam. But it's not worth anything. Because the people in the land are too strong. The cities are fortified. There are giants. We're not strong enough. And Kalev gets up and he says, we could do it. What are you talking about? We can conquer the land. We can take them. What's the story? Did they say a bad word about the land? What did they say? What did they say? They said it's a beautiful land, exactly like you said. It's zavat chalav udvash. It's perfect. Look at the fruit. Proof. Just one problem. They're too strong. There's not one word of Lashon Hara over here. The big Lashon Hara, not one word. What, if anything, who did they say Lashon Hara on? They're saying we're not strong enough. They don't have confidence. And they continue, we're like grasshoppers in our eyes compared to them. The whole story over here is a story about insecurity and a lack of confidence. There's nothing bad about the land. Then we continue. And here's where it comes from. The Lashon Hara didn't come out of nowhere. Kalev gets up and he says, we can do this. And now the people get angry because he'll convince somebody. And we don't want to go fight. Kalev says, "Oh loy nala, we can go, we can take a kiyachol nuchala. We're capable." And the people said, "Loy nuchalalis, we can't. They're too strong." And then they said, "Vayutziu diabas haaretz." And then they started to speak bad about the land. They didn't say one bad word about the land. They said we're not strong enough. And then, when they were being put against the wall, we're going to go fight. Now they said, "Oh, it's a land that eats its inhabitants. It's a terrible land." What's the story over here? This is the story of all of our own pieces of land. Everybody, every one of us, Hashem gave us our mikdash on our land. You have a family, and you have children, and you have neighbors in the community, and a shul, and the rabbi, and friends, and a yeshiva with rebbeim, and co-workers, and bosses, and employees. Everybody has their piece of the rock. And every one of our lands is beautiful. Hashem gave you a chelek in His world that's magnificent. But we're afraid to live it. We're afraid to go. Lo nuchal. Whatever happened to us as children and all the negative experiences, something decided in me I'm not strong enough. I'm afraid of the light. I'm no longer afraid of the dark. Now I embrace the dark. I only feel safe in the dark. When the light comes out, then I get scared. So then what do? That's when we start to say, I don't like it. All the rabbis are this. My Rosh Hashiva is this. They're fake. They're scared about this. We're not saying Lashon Hara on the land because we don't like the land. It's the second step. I love my land. I don't believe I can have it. I don't believe I can live in it. So now I have to start knocking everything. The problem is when I go and I live that life and I say, it's all shtuyot. It's a terrible world. Nothing's fair. When I knock everything and make all my excuses why I can live in the dark, I live in my own churban. There's one thing that might save me. I'm sitting with my friends who dropped out of yeshiva on the steps, and then we see one friend walking by with a Gemara, going to the Beit Midrash. And we see him, that's Kalev. He's Kalev telling us that we could have it, because we were classmates. And we all gave up, and we're all sitting there. But Kalev is going, he says we can have it. Look, he's carrying Svarim. I stop working, and I see my guy going with an attaché case to his office. We all see people who are still living their dreams. And when we see that, it reminds me of what I want, and it ruins my hiding. It ruins my churban. So now we have to turn on him like we turned on the land. The hatred that they had for Eretz Yisrael, and the hatred that we have for all the people who are happy and living, that's sinat chinam. You want to know what sinat chinam is? Sinat chinam is, he didn't do anything to me. Right, he didn't. Why do I hate him? Because he's reminding me of what I wanted. Because when I see him walking down to his chuppah, when I see him going to learn, when I see him going to make money, it reminds me that I wanted a chuppah, and I wanted Torah, and I wanted money. And I gave up. So he's ruining my giving up. So we have a hatred. That's sinat chinam. That's the sinah, the worst sinah. Because that is the thing that causes your churban. The churban is that we don't live our lives. But you can't have a churban without sinat chinam. You can't not live your life. Because everyone, look how happy they are. It's going to make me jump. I'm also going to want to go. It's a threat to my giving up. You understand what I'm saying? Sinat chinam is the cause of the churban. When we translate churban to the real meaning of churban, my life, or the Meraglim. The Meraglim said we hate the land. Why? Because they didn't believe they could have it. They didn't really hate the land. It was sinat chinam. It was bechiyah shel chinam. Tears of nothing. It wasn't really bad. It wasn't really sad. I'm afraid to face my life. The churban of our dar. The whole world. We sit, we look at all of our dreams. When we were little children, we all had our eyes wide open. We woke up early in the morning, like roosters. The first people up in any house are little children. We jump. And then all of a sudden, there's one day where our father can't get us out of bed for Shachrit. The same kid who was waking up his parents, the parents had to lock the door and said, quiet, don't wake us up. Just because you get up doesn't mean we have to get up. Have a little respect. That same parent, there's one day where it switches. Now the parent's knocking on his door, get up. And everyone's up, he's sleeping. That's the day of the Churban. His Beit HaMikdash, his piece of the world, is lying fallow because he's afraid to face it. Efes ki az ha'am, it's too hard, it's too scary. This fear is the fear of the Churban, it causes Churban. But then there are people living dreams, and they're going, people still with their eyes open. There are people who go to Shachrit, and people who go to work, people who learn, people who do everything. So I need to wipe that smile off their face. I have to knock them. We think, people see people who are religious and still doing. So when you give up, you have to knock the whole religion. That's not just Judaism, the whole world today. I spend most of my time on colleges talking to students. You hear the professors talk on colleges. They have to destroy every single beautiful thing in the world because everybody can just give up. Families are terrible, and there's no truth, and there's no morality, and there's no beauty. Corporations are bad, fur coats, SUVs. What's the common denominator between a fur coat and an SUV and a Jew and Israel and Christianity and families and religion and truth? They're all things that people have, they want them, and they feel proud. But if I want to be a churban and I want my stones all scattered, I want to lie on the floor, give up. So I need to ruin every one of those things. Not because I hate them. It's not sinah. It's sinat chinam. I'm ruining it for nothing. Because if I say money is stupid, and I say marriage is stupid, and I say there's no truth, and there's no morality, and there's no anything, no values, then I have nothing to live for. That's sinat chinam. That's bechiyah shel chinam. They knocked the land of Israel, not because it was bad, because they needed it to be bad. This is the avodah of Tisha B'Av. Do you want to live an entire life where you're just feeling nothing? Go through the motions in the dark? We figured out how to live dark. That was the Haftorah we just read on Shabbat. What was the Haftorah? You know what it said? It's not talking about not religious Jews. This is exactly, I think, where the Gemara gets its explanation from when it says they didn't make a bracha on Torah. From the Haftorah. It says that they were bringing karbanot. They were coming to the Beit HaMikdash to daven. They were doing everything. So what was Hashem upset about? Hashem says, Lama li rov zivchechem. Why do I need all your sacrifices? All your fats. I need it? Dam parim, the blood of your cows, kvazim and your sheep. That's not what I wanted. You coming to my shul? Mi bikesh zois mi yedchem. Did I ask you, remais chatzeiroi, to trample my courtyards? We were going to the Beis HaMikdash, and Hashem said, did I ask you to trample my courtyard? Who asked you to come here? Because we were bringing karbanot that meant nothing. You walk into shul with your eyes closed. You put on your tefillin and you're off. You don't even remember sometimes if there was I putting them on or taking them off? That's Ramayis Chatzerah. You're trampling my courtyard. The Haftarah is describing Hashem's anger doesn't come from running away and doing bad things. That's easier for Hashem to accept. Hashem can't accept the Churban when you're living here and you feel nothing. Just crumbled stones. And that's who we are. We go through the motions. We do everything. But our eyes are still closed. That's what it means. Shloi birchu b'Torah tchila. You learn Torah, but there's no bracha. There's no God in it. You're reading books, intellectual games. Do you feel close to Hashem? Is it the dveikut? Are you vulnerable? Do you feel it? Bottom line is we all have a field. And our job is to live there and to enjoy it, to plant it and to harvest it. Our symphony, our instruments. And we all sitting there hiding, going through life. Can I last for 80 years and never feeling it? Wake up late, run the whole day late, go to sleep at night, fall right to sleep, wake up tomorrow and do it the same. And Hashem is saying, this is the Khurban. So how do you turn it around? So the Gemara says how. The Gemara tells us, so simple. Everyone who will mourn over the Beis HaMikdash will merit to have the joy, to see its happiness. If you will cry over Yerushalayim, then you will enjoy the simcha. But the only problem is the pasuk doesn't say you will enjoy. It doesn't say yizkeh, he will merit to see it. Kol mis'abel, anyone who mourns over Yerushalayim, zocheh v'roeh, he merits and sees instantly. What's it saying? It's saying like this. The way we explain the Khurban here, the Khurban is that you don't live your life. We just go through things without feeling. So if that's the case, the Torah says, no, kol mis'abel. If you will feel the pain of your emptiness, then you will feel joy. People think that joy and happiness, joy and suffering, pain and suffering and joy are opposites. I have to choose between suffering or simcha. And what Tisha B'Av tells us is no, it's not the truth. Joy and suffering are the same. Nobody in the world has everything. So everyone in this room, there are things you have and things you don't. The things you don't have cause you tsar. The things you do have cause you joy. So we all should have joy and tsar. But we're so scared to feel the tsar that we choose something else. And that is to feel nothing, to be numb. That's Khurban. Khurban is feeling nothing. So now you have no joy and you have no tsar. We're mois chatzeiroi, trampling the courtyards. I wake up, I go through motions. I live in the dark. My eyes are not open. I'm not jumping out of bed. So now I feel no joy and I feel no tsar. Numb. That's our world. And the Gemara says, Kol mis'abel. If you could learn how to feel tsar, conquer your numbness, admit to yourself how sad your life is, how everything you wanted when you were 10 is not here. You made up new dreams, and the new dreams, yeah, you have a fancy car, but it doesn't give you joy, because you know that's not what you really wanted. You don't feel proud looking in the mirror. You can't lie in bed at night without being tired, because you can't think about your life, because you're ashamed. The world is a place where you can choose one of two ways to live. You can choose to feel tsar, to be feeling, and then you'll feel joy also. If you will be mis'abel al Yerushalayim, which means if you will feel the pain of your own tsar, don't make excuses, don't blame anybody, admit it. I don't have what I want. That vulnerability will allow you to also see what you do have. You will have joy. You'll also fix the things that you're missing because you admitted it. The other choice is to hide, to bury all my things, to disconnect. And then I have to have sinat chinam, I have to hate everything. I have to make fun of everything that I wanted. The avodah, the job of Tisha B'Av is to be vulnerable, to be able to face our failings, our own khurban. Yes, the Beis HaMikdash was thousands of years ago, it's very hard. You have your own khurban. That 10-year-old boy who used to wake up and every single thing was exciting. He used to wait for the rabbi to look at him and say good Shabbat Shalom. He was craving his Rebbe's saying a nice word. Oh, good question. So proud of everything good. That kid now turned into this cynic. Makes fun of everything. I hate this, I hate that, oh, it's all fakers. Oh. That's our khurban. If we can sit down and be mis'abel, what does that mean? That means to admit to myself, no, I don't hate that. I love that. I'm afraid I don't deserve it. Those are the magic words. Kala mis'abel, anyone who can mourn what he's missing. Admit what you're missing. Don't say, I'm so happy. I am the man. I have everything I want. It's all shtuyot. It's all... No, admit it. You're not what you wanted. Remember when you were 10. When you admit that, zocheh v'roeh, instantly you'll have joy. Honesty. You'll see it. You'll feel it. I want to end with a story. It's a very subtle story. I wasn't sure if I was going to say it, but a few minutes. I hope everybody appreciates. Usually stories, they need a big bang. This is a very subtle story. But I almost cried when it happened. I had to hold it in. I live in Lakewood. People like to say, I hate Lakewood. Heard that phrase? Sinat chinam. It's the same hatred for Eretz Yisrael. Everybody loves Torah. We love being good. We love chachamim. But I'm not learning anything. And I don't feel firm enough, so I have to hate. Sinat chinam. If I hate that, then I can preserve my own churban. I'm a churban. My hatred for the world and everything beautiful allows me to. Anyways, I was there in Lakewood. I went to a Shalom Zachar. Leil Shabbat, somebody had a baby boy. Now at the Shalom, we make a Shalom Zachar, they serve alcohol. So all the boys in town who are at risk, high school boys, they discovered Shalom Zachars. They don't go to anything religious, but a Shalom Zachar, they're all there. I didn't realize this once till I went a few nights. I realized, what are all these kids doing there? And the kids are sitting there, and whenever no one's looking, they're drinking. It's free alcohol. Little boys. I shouldn't say, it's not so prevalent. But I saw this boy. He's sitting there in the corner. He's not dressed in Big Day Shabbat. He looks very lost. And he's sitting there drinking. I'm thinking, where's his father? Who knows what his life is like? And I'm on the side, and then one man says to him, the boy's drinking. The man goes over, and he says, takes the bottle. He goes, you have to drink the 21-year-old Glenlivet? You know the difference? He's a little high school kid. What does he know the difference? Drink the Johnny Walker Red. The 21-year-old, you need to know the difference? So, I figure, what? I'm here, let me say something. Reach out to the boy. I normally talk to college kids. It's a whole different demographic. It's a different world. But I went over to the boy, and he wasn't interested in talking to anybody. I looked at him, and I knew he must have just been hurt, a little insulted. Probably used to it by now. I went over to him, and I looked at the bottle, and I said, oh, it's good. I said, how do you know this is the best thing in the room? So he looked at me like a little skeptical. Like he didn't want to, maybe I'm also going to say something negative. I said, you know what this stuff costs? He goes, yeah, I know. So then we were talking. I saw like a little flicker in his eye, like you're not going to hit me. You're not swinging at me, So I'm going to talk to the boy. It worked. The first line worked. I saw a flicker. So I talked to him. I didn't say any musar. I didn't ask him where he's learning. I made sure to avoid, if we're trying, we can avoid all the things that hurt people. We're sensitive enough to know which topics. I didn't mention Rabbi. I didn't mention his father. I didn't mention his school. I talked about the difference between wine and scotch. Wanted his opinion. We talked about, if he's ever been out of New Jersey, where's he gone, what's he seen. We talked. We talked for a half an hour at a Shalom Zachar. And it was surprising how peaceful and friendly our conversation. I was sitting with a hat. He hates everything that I represent. But we talked, it was so beautiful. At the end of the conversation, the boy looks at me. I'm about to leave. I'm getting up. I said, it was a pleasure to meet you. And I walk out. I'm about to leave. He says, do you have any kids? So I said, yeah, I have 4 kids. He goes, you have boys? I said, yeah, I have one boy. He's probably about your age. So he looks at me and he says, don't ever let him have internet. Wow. Do you know what sinat chinam is? That I can't let anybody remind me of what I want to be. And I have to knock everything down. You know what the opposite of sinat chinam is? Not avat chinam. Everybody says avat chinam. What does that even mean? Love with no reason? You ever try that? Tell your wife you love her and she'll say, why? Why do you love me? No reason. That's going to work? Nobody wants avat chinam. We want avat with reasons. We want you to love me because I'm so good. The opposite of sinat chinam is not avat chinam. You know what the opposite of sinat chinam is? The way we explain sinat chinam. What is sinat chinam? We said people want to hide. They want to give up their dreams. So sinat chinam is I hate you not because you hurt me. I hate you because you remind me of my dreams. Because you're smiling too much. Because you're too proud. That's why I hate you. You're a reminder. You're going to let me out of my darkness. So sinat chinam is I have to take away everything beautiful. Avat chinam is when a guy, not avat chinam, the opposite of sinat chinam, is this boy had every reason in the world to want everybody else to be miserable. And I gave him a little bit of respect. And I treated him like a person. And he said to me, don't ever, you know what that is? So that's both of our points of today. He is the opposite of numb. In order for him to say what he said to me, two things had to happen. One thing is he had to be nisabel on his Yerushalayim. He had to admit to himself he wasn't in a good place. That's called nisabel al Yerushalayim. That's what it means. He had to admit he wasn't the man. He wasn't the happiest person. And then he did the second thing, because they're related. He saved me. He tried to reach out and to save other people from that. The concern, the opposite of sinat chinam, is the desire that everybody else should walk around with their eyes open. The longing that everyone should dream. Sinat chinam is the desire to silence all dreams. Numbness. There should be no brachot before Torah. Everyone should be numb. The opposite is that everybody should feel. Rabbi, protect your son from a little boy. I promise you, this boy, he was nisabel on his Yerushalayim. He hoped that everybody else, that I should be happy, my children should be happy. This boy is zoche v'roya b'simchata. This boy today is zoche, he is living a life of such simcha. Because he was able to be modeh, to admit, to see his churban. May we all be zoche, to be nisabel on our churbanim. To look at my life and not blame anyone, not say it was stupid, nothing, I hate. Life is too short to spend your whole next 80 years with your eyes closed. Have the bravery to admit our tsar and our failings, and the beauty that comes out of it, and the love you will have for other people will bring us to Geula b'mheira. Amen. Amen.